Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. As I said in my 2024 video, I'm going to do two videos back to back, so excuse me if you notice the same hair and all that, the shirt and everything, just excuse me, just shooting two videos back to back. So, um, this one will be fairly short just because, I don't want to go too deep into this because I think it's kind of self-explanatory, um, but I kind of want to touch on something that I've noticed kind of creeping in, especially in 2023. And that has a lot to do with, we kind of touched on this on a vlog, um, a lot to do with exploitation and a lot to do with the nature of filmmaking nowadays. It seems like because I just saw May December yesterday, which by this point you guys should have seen that review. I wasn't particularly big on it. I actually stopped watching the movie. So, um, and the reason for I said in the review was because it made me very uncomfortable by the subject matter, which was a woman who was like in her mid 20s or something like that, having sex with someone who is like 13 years old. So, and the movie makes this development the center point of its drama, and creating a certain, manipulating ultimately a certain fact, and turning it into something deeper than it should be. Like it starts to devolve into something very sinister and very unnerving. Um, and it's trying to deconstruct something that really doesn't need to be deconstructed, and that's where I got really uncomfortable with it. But um, I have been noticing this attention towards shock value and just like an emphasis on like of alarming people. I've been noticing that more this year than anything. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's just with studios just saying like, oh, people seem to, gravitate towards this more, or it's just the flexibility with certain details. I don't know, but um, I just been noticing this a lot this year. It seems I've been hearing a lot about it with like Poor Things, with like a bunch of nudity and a bunch of this and that. Napoleon, I just saw recently with those really awkward sex scenes. Um, no Hard Feelings, with Jennifer Lawrence just being full nude for some reason. And then the context of that movie as well, and a much older lady trying to hook up with like a fresh 18-year-old boy. There's, there's just a um, and then they will always come to the same thing in justifying their odd behaviors, and that is that, well, it's meant to be comedic. Every single one of those movies that I mentioned, the excuse is comedy. For No Hard Feelings, it's billed as a comedy. Napoleon, oh, there's undertones, it's a comedy. May December, oh, there's undertones, it's a comedy. It's that seems to be the answer for all this stuff, and um, we did a video on that as well, where we talked about Hollywood's humor and how a lot of that's not really funny. And it's also extremely hypocritical just because Hollywood as a system is a very accepting system. They're very, accepting in that, politically speaking, they're a very inclusive environment. They make that point a lot. They want to include as many people as possible, as long as you're a left wing, of course. Um, like there's a bias, but their whole thing is about inclusivity and diversity and to be respectful. But then you look at the type of comedy that they will allow and the type of humor and just, in general, with the type of narratives that they will explore as of late, it really just kind of highlights a hypocrisy, but also um, a really odd fetish that Hollywood has to some measure with when it comes to certain stories, and also with the actors. You could say it's experimental, you could say this and that, but what I've said before of like experiments are only really experiments if they're justified by certain things. If it's just someone pleasuring themselves on camera, or in the context of like wavelength where I'm just staring at a wall, or other things here and there, it's just an excuse to be weird, and to just do strange things, and then just use the skies of art, or in the case of all these movies, just hey, it's just comedy, it's just funny. That I mean, obviously, it's funny seeing someone do in a really awkward sex scene. It's obviously funny to see someone fully nude. Uh, okay, and it's also really funny for someone to have a fetish or have an interest in a 13-year-old boy, and then have someone mentally become that person. Like, I just don't understand, like, the emphasis on these sort of attitudes lately. And it's all shock value. I mean, that's really what it is. For them, it's just artistry. I see it more as shock value, because the difference between having an artistic point and shock value is that shock value, when you see something, promotes a response, where with art, it promotes emotion. So, like, for instance, when I saw the sex scene in Napoleon, my reaction was, "What the hell is that?" Like, that's just weird. It wasn't, okay, interesting. It was more like, what the hell is happening? Why is this here? This is just so, like, um, that's what shock value is. It gets people to go like, "Oh, what the hell? Oh no," Um, like, for example, like, some people would say Lars von Trier's movies are all about shock value. Most recently with The House That Jack Built, um, he had that film premiere at Cannes, and people were just walking out because of certain images and certain things, and they labeled that as shock value. And they're to some extent right. I mean, there's images in those movies that definitely promote that, stuff with, like, with kids and this and that. Like, if you have to go to the extremes, that's shock value to me. Like, honestly, if you're just having to just go really hard, like with that movie, for example, they're like shooting kids, like, and they're making it showing it in a certain light. Like, to me, that's shock value, you know, um, because all I get out of that is a response. All I get is, like, like, oh, what the fuck, It's not like, hmm, it's different responses, So, and Hollywood seems to be pushing in that direction more, and accepting of that, like allowing for the shock value to take place, and it's just like, I don't know, it's just really odd, and um, a lot of the time, it's this year especially, it's like, there's no place for that. There's other directions that you can take that are less extreme, and can give the same points. Um, like, subtleties would be better, versus having to see this form of exaggeration, because it just doesn't sit well. So, and I don't excuse it because it's a comedy, or you find comedic undertones to it. Like, that's, to me, just like, that's just finding a way to accept a really weird behavior, and a really weird representation of certain things. So, I don't know. It's just something that I've noticed lately with Hollywood, is that they've been really highlighting the sort of storytelling, and I don't think that it's needed for a lot of those stories. I don't think shock value is needed in general for good stories. I mean, a good story would not have shock value, to be honest. You don't need sequences of, like, of these extreme elements, these extreme visual, representations. You don't need that sort of thing if your story is really good. But if your story just sucks, I could see where the stuff comes from. The story should, if the story is great, you don't need it. I really don't think you need it. If it is there, then that just tells me the weaknesses with your script or with the actual story itself. So, because I just don't buy into that. Like I don't look at stuff like that and I just go, wow, that is such powerful art. I see it more as just padding, and someone also excusing their bad behavior and using the artistry as their disguise. So and I just I really don't know why Hollywood is okay. Like a few years ago, this wouldn't be accepted, but now it's like it's okay, and it's gonna be more okay. It seems. I don't know, and I feel like that's highlighting a huge hypocrisy within Hollywood's line of thinking. They'll be accepting of these things over here, but we can't allow these politics, whatever this stuff over here, to come in. But we'll be cool with representing. We'll be cool with certain representations, either be through extreme nudity or with weird sex sequences or this and that. Like, I don't know. Like, it's just it's an odd rationale and an odd line of thinking, and just an odd representation of ideas, and just the ideas themselves. To be frank, like I don't know who wants to see like House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones and stuff like that. It's like, does anyone like the idea of incest? I don't. May December also. Does anyone like the idea of a woman having sex, or anybody having sex with a minor and then having them be married and all that sort of stuff? Like, does anyone want to watch that? No. Like that's not appealing. That's just gross, So, I don't get why those kinds of things are getting more attention nowadays, because it's probably shocking, and it's, that's what's great storytelling nowadays. If it's shocking, then it's good. In my book, it's lazy, and it's also, it's just extreme just to be extreme, That's not great. That's not great approaches to the craft. It's just, it's just more uncomforting than accepting, I'm more like, get that away from me, not, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to do, sort of thing. So, but yeah, and that's not my sensitivities talking. It's just the representation. I've seen extreme elements brought into movies that feel justified because there's a what's the word? There's a purpose for it to be here. A lot of times it just feels like they're just doing it just for reactions, so that they can disguise probably the behavior of the filmmaker, but also the absence in its storytelling. Maybe that speaks a lot about Hollywood's quality as of late. So maybe that's the reason. Maybe just the quality's been not that great, and they use these elements to just distract you. I don't know, but you guys let me know your thoughts on this topic. And it's a very specific kind of topic, but you guys let me know your thoughts. Do you guys think that there has been a lot of shock value lately? I feel like there has, especially in like mainstream media. You guys let me know in the comment section below. And that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.